Welcome back to the March edition of NMRAx. I'm Speed, today not at the bottom of the helix. I'm in the jump seat in the back of a pickup truck. I would call it the third row because it's very bumpy back here. But never mind, it's 66 degrees in Tulsa. We're having the LD SIG OPSIG weekend here, and you're missing out because you are not here to see these beautiful layouts to operate on. Our next presenter has been participating in our virtual clinics for almost all the time. This evening, he will discuss the advantages of modeling a single town layout. Please welcome Joey Giunto.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much, Speed and the rest of the NMRA team for hosting this event. It's always a pleasure to be here and do one of these amazing NMRAx clinics virtually with you guys. And also Lloyd, great work on your presentation. Your work is phenomenal, and I can't wait to start modeling and at least practicing what you have showed us. So, again, guys, thank you for coming and hanging out with us today. And today we are going to talk about the one town approach. I have a lot of model railroaders in my area, and they want to build layouts. And they will come to me and say, well, we can do this town, that town, this town, that town. And I said, that's great, but think of an operating scheme. Do you want to operate? Do you want to do something that pertains to what you enjoyed modeling, that you remember when you were a child? Is there a specific area that you would like to do, or is there a specific place that you enjoy watching trains switch on a main line or in a industrial park or something like that? So, especially with folks who have a limited amount of space, right? And that's with me, that's what I had to work with. And so today we're going to show you the advantages of the one town approach, including some designs that may help you along your journey on building a layout. And I'm going to be featuring the Penn-Reading Industrial Division. It's my HO scale layout. So there we go. Let's go to the next one. All right. So the one town approach, right? You're modeling a specific location. It could be rail served for industries, right? Or maybe it is a place where you like trains passing through that one town that you enjoy rail fanning, or somewhere where you grew up. Or it can be both. On my layout, we have both. Uh, Not limited to space, right? You can have a massive basement or a small switching layout, and I will show you a bunch of examples on folks using just the one town. It could be freelance. You can use a prototype, or like here, a proto freelance. Sky's the limit, right? All right, so let's go to the next one here. So, what are your goals? What do you enjoy? What do you want to do on your town? What do you want to create? So we have folks who may like just the rail fanning. They enjoy watching the trains passing through the town. There is a phenomenal spot on the Conrail River line when I was a kid. It's milepost or control point 26, and it was a small town of I think Valley Cottage, New York, and man, it's just fun just watching trains go through this little tiny New York town, right? And 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 so that was, for me, that'll be fun to have something to rail fan. Where also maybe the trains may not be the main attraction, right? Maybe you enjoy building and creating scenes along the main line, stores, food establishments, um, beautiful scenery, where the trains are mainly the background, not necessarily up front, like like the main attraction, right? Also, we have operations. Some folks enjoy the switching or the enjoyment of switching industries. They enjoy operating a layout where you can do an op session, or you can, like here, where the trains are the main attraction, where you're visually watching the trains and you are operating and switching the industries. Okay, so there are both goals, two different goals you can have here, where again, you just like the trains passing through the town, or you can have something where it's just switching industries, or you can do both. On my layout, I have both. So here's an example. Here's Vic Smith's city edge layout, and this is a Vic Smith photo, so I'll give him credit for that. Here, a rail fanning style layout. We have trains that roll through the city. Structures and the city scenes are the main attraction, right? They go through the city itself, the town. It's yes, they're not, like I said, they're not the main attraction. His buildings are what the main attractions. The little scenes he creates in front and behind the trains and on his little, let's say, like the food establishments, the dealerships. He has like a biker gang that comes out. So that is his main attraction, are the structures that he builds and the overall rail fanning of the city itself. And the trains roll in and out. Now, on his layout, if you look backstage, per se, he does have a spot where he has staging, so he can have trains going. I believe that he could switch out locomotives. He can switch out a few things here and there. So it's mainly what you see here is what the layout is, and it's just a train rolling through the city. It's rail fanning. Now you have something on the other spectrum, Bob Fallowfield's Canadian Pacific Gold Sub. This is a photo that Bob took, so credit for him for that. And his layout is centered around the town of Woodstock. And so he has a beautiful design where the trains are going out of staging and they pass through the town, but he also has industries. So he's concentrating on the one town that he grew up in. And he has trains going from staging through the town, switching the town, and back into staging. And this is the layout that inspired me to do what I am doing today. It was Bob Fallowfield's CP Gold Sub. And you have another sort of in the middle spectrum here. You got Lance Meinheim's CSX's Miami Downtown Spur, which is pure switching operations, and it's the one industrial town. Okay, and so here's is the one town. It's the section of the corner of Miami, and you can see here he has staging on the top here and on the bottom, and he is concentrating on switching industries. But he's not modeling Tallahassee. He's not going out to Orlando or Fort Lauderdale. He's concentrating on this one section, and this will help focus you on one, a design that can be fairly simple. Two, concentrate on the buildings and scenery that are within this town and area that you are modeling. Also, it limits you to purchasing models that go for what you are modeling in this town. Um, we know that the hobby is fairly expensive, so if you can discipline yourself in the fact that you can buy something that goes along with what you're modeling, you could concentrate on other things and save you money for other stuff that may contribute to what you're modeling here on this kind of layout. All right, so this is my buddy Johnny's. He lives like 5 minutes away from me. He models a BNSF Marion sub switching layout. It is 10 feet long, 16 inches wide. It's a work in progress, as you can see. It's the early 2000s BNSF, but he models his hometown of Marion, Illinois. The industries are inspired by the Crab Orchard and Egyptian Railroad. So he does the one town, and eventually the backdrops will feature a lot of the main, I would say, establishments that are along the Crab Orchard and Egyptian Railroad. And so that will include some of the iconic buildings in that area where the grade crossings go through. So so you have something like that, right? And so here's another side. So he has all those industries. So it's something very simple, but it's still just the one town. He's not trying to model multiple towns in this small little switching layout, which, by the way, is a challenge and a lot of fun to operate. Okay, a railroad town. So a railroad town, based on Google, is a railroad. The definition is called a railway town, or railroad town is a settlement that originated or was greatly developed because of a railway station or junction at its site. Cool. Okay. So what's in a railroad town? You may have a station, a junction, railroad interchange, a yard, industry, maybe a terminal, or all of the above. You look at Kansas City. This is the Kansas City bottoms. Just look at this one photo here. You look down here. You have a team track or a rip track here. You have some switching. You have the main lines, and you have the beautiful backdrops of Kansas City bottoms. So it means sky's the limit. You can have everything, and probably if you decide to model parts of Kansas City. And I'm not talking about modeling mile per mile or foot by foot. I'm talking about just overall using modeling licensing to replicate or model something that's the actual town itself. Okay, so concepts. So very, very simple. If you want to do point to point, kind of like Bob Fallowfield's layout, you have staging, and then you have the railroad town, and then go back into staging. Very, very simple concept. That's pretty much what we're doing, modeling and the railroad town. So here's something, if you want something around the room. So here's a little design here. So you have, let's say up here, you have your yard interchange. Let's say you have a class one and a short line. And this can also act as your staging, right? Now, I say suburb, but maybe the outskirts of town. So don't forget, we always need some negative space on the layout. It relaxes our eyes from all the busyness on a big layout. Let's say there's a big layout, right? And you're doing a really big railroad town. And so they have the outskirts of the town where you want to do some scenery, maybe some like a farm scene, something that's just a breathable space before you get back into the rest of the layout here. So you have here, down here, you have maybe the main town and the yard. You have an industrial park here. So you have everything. You can do your loops where you can run trains around the layout, or you can do where, well, actually you have your industrial park. So you have your switching operations. You do have your yard, and you still have the big town, right? So that's another concept that you can do. This and it doesn't have to be a square or a rectangle. It could be a triangle or octagon. Doesn't matter, as long as it's something that fits in where the space that you want to model. That's all that matters. Okay, so I had to look for a specific location or actually a town. Let's do a town, right? That's what we're doing here. And I was going through a bunch of different towns, and I finally picked one here. And this is Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, which is control point 5 to control point 7, just about 2 miles long. Okay, and this is the research you can do with Google Maps. This is a photo my father took back in the late 90s. It shows August 1st, 1997. So back in those days, actually prior to that, this was the start of the Conrail River line. Prior to that was the New York Central, and then it went to eventually CSX. So you have Class 1, and you also have the New York Susquehanna and Western. So you have a short line. You have both through freights and switching operations. You have an engine terminal. Oh my gosh, now you have an interchange. There are both, you have residential industrial scenery, and you have waterway, bridges, and overpasses. You have all of this stuff within the 2 miles. By the way, this is making me excited to probably model this in the future. So let's go. So look how big this is. Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, just right here, just little spots. So where those bridges are, it starts down here and it goes whoop, right up here to I-80 Express, I-80 highway right here. So this is it. This is what you're modeling. This whole section here. That's it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So now we're looking south. Okay, this is looking south. That's the Hackensack River. So let's say you start your layout right where these bridges are. Okay, right in front of you is a foundation of an old restaurant. They had the most juiciest hamburgers that I could remember before it was torn down. Okay, and these bridges are movable bridges. To let small boats, I guess. I don't know if they move anymore, but I knew back in the day they used to. But now you have you use your modeling skills to build a water scene, bridges, old foundation if you want to do March 2022, where this photo was actually taken, or you go back into the 90s where there was a restaurant. So we're on the crossing, and we're still looking south. Okay, this is the Conrail, now CSX River Line. South of here is the North Bergen Intermodal Terminal. So in your staging, you can have the CSX, or prior to that, the Conrail or New York Central North Bergen Intermodal Terminal. And even further south than that, you have Oak Island Yard, which I believe was the ex Lehigh Valley, but also Conrail and now CSX. And also to the right, you have right along here, you have the New York Susquehanna and Western Little Ferry Yard, which is now Richfield Heights Auto Terminal. Oh my gosh, now you have mixed freights, intermodal, NMRAx, and well cars, stack cars. Sky's the limit here, guys, right? And if you start your layout, you can start it, like I said, beyond the just right on beyond the south end of the bridges. That's where you start. And this is March 2022. So if you want to do modern, this is it used to be single track, now it's double track, and you have your options to model both wooden ties and concrete ties, and all of this beyond these bridges can be staging. Okay, so yeah, this is making me excited here. All right, so now we're turning our heads to the north, whoop, this way, right? Looking on the other side, this is looking north. And there you have the New York Susquehanna and Western Engine Facility. There is the interchange track going along here. So you have your interchange. You have the Route 46 overpass right here. And you have your industrial buildings. So now you can model a little bit of the industrial side of the rail line. And again, double track here. Again, used to be a single track, but look, you have all this stuff here. So if you decide to March 2022, look at all the neat stuff that's already here for you. Okay. Now we're walking up the road to Route 46 overpass. This is an old overpass. You can see here, I see a lot of kit bashing and some scratch building going on right here, right? You have some scenic elements. You have trees, bushes. You have a road. You have some elevation differences, right? And you have a nice divider here where this is an overpass where you can split up your scenes per se if you decide to do that. And here's the New York Susquehanna and Western Engine Facility. So here, very very simple industry to model. And if you look back now, if you go back to the 90s, you know they had GP18s. Oh boy, those things! I used to watch those things shove 82 cars back to Little Ferry going south, and those little things had a lot of horses in them to move those kind of cars. And here's in like a XST45. So going from the 90s into the 2000s, you had patched some Pacific engines. So sky's the limit, guys, for something like this. So if you like this kind of modeling, it's really fun to me. And look, this is springtime, so you look a lot of trees and all that. So there's a lot of things you can do here. Again, here's another side view. Here's March 2022, very current with your aces sitting here and Susquehanna patching, right? You have the signal bridge here. You have your control point 5. You have a very crooked, based on the camera here, crooked telephone pole. And then you have the main lines here. So you have a billboard. Again, there's a lot of stuff here. And now we're going to continue north. We're looking south, but we're walking up the road here. We're on Cedar Street, and you have the signal bridge down here, way down here in the distance. And you have a nice sweeping curve, a lot of scenic elements here. You have a residential neighborhood, right? It's a little bit on the hill, and I believe it was 2 tracks back in the New York Central days. But the cool part is, if you're modeling something like this, and it's just the one town, I've seen train races go through here. So I've seen CSX trains on the Susquehanna cross over onto their main line. I've seen CSX trains on the main line that will cross over back to Little Ferry. So there's so much you can do and use your trains as the main attraction along with background, where it's not the main attraction as well. Okay, so now we're turning our heads, going north. Okay, this is the original New York Central train station. It's now a bank. You have both residential, industrial setting. Okay, you have your shops and food establishments. So there's a lot going on. Just again, this is only 2 miles, maybe 3 miles of track that you're working with, and you're doing just the one town. You're not going all over the United States trying to model everything. It's right here for you. Okay. Okay, we're walking north, right, past that station, and we're looking south. Now you're on Mount Vernon Street. If you look to the left, they did a lot of cleanup here on this road, by the way. This is May 2022, and then look, it's pretty. You have a lot of scenic elements going on, trees. You have your sidewalks. You have your stores and other businesses, and to the right, you have your more of your industrial. Okay, and there's an access road right here that's public. You can drive down and goes all the way down back south towards the other crossing where the bridges were. So, and here you have a nice crossing. So you have your idea of having trains blowing for the crossing. So you get your rail fanning in and you get your switching. You ready for your switching? We're going to look north now. You have the New York Susquehanna Western Yard. So you have something where you can block cars, build the trains, and just switch them and move them down to Little Ferry staging. Something very simple. Okay, and this is also Industrial Avenue along the side here. Look at the height variation between the yard and main line. So now you're working on different elevations, which can be a challenge in model railroading. But I mean, guys, the practice makes perfect, right? So why don't try something like this? So now we're going into staging. We're going right into staging. The I-80 overpass is pretty much your cutoff point because now you go into Hackensack, New Jersey, on the other side of the highway overpass. So your view block into staging is your overpass, and your main line curves away this way. It goes whoop that way, and New York Susquehanna, I believe it goes north up to Buffalo. Correct me if I'm mistaken. I believe the train is SU-99 is what they use to go through, but I could be wrong. But you have the Hackensack River, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on, and just a small section of New Jersey. Okay, so Ridgefield Park, New Jersey layout plan. So again, this could be any shape you want to do. Let's say it's side, straight through like this, very straight. You have to the left, you're staging south. You have North Bergen Yard, Little Ferry Yard, Oak Island Classification Yard. All of that is in staging. And then entering the railroad town, where is your visible layout, you have the movable bridges, Control Point 5, the New York Susquehanna and Western Facility, Route 46 overpass that could be divided to the next section of the layout, and you have the industrial portion of the layout, right? And so you go to the next side, you have the New York Central Station, you have the New York Susquehanna and Western Yard, Mount Vernon Street crossing, your residential industrial scenery. And now you go back into staging, going northbound. You got CSX trains to Selkirk, and the Susquehanna goes somewhere off distance. And then the I-80 overpass is your divider that goes into staging. And so your viewers and your operators, all they see is the middle two columns. That's all they see, right? And so with technology today, I know Speed knows all about Arduinos. I mean, you can make your stuff automatic. Have these trains go in and out automatically, in and out of staging. So, there's your layout plan for Ridgefield Park. All right, now the one-town approach on the Penn-Reading Industrial Division. I originally wasn't going to do a one-town. I was going to have multiple vignettes or scenic vignettes on the layout that featured my friend's collection. So let's go to that. So a little bit of the backstory on the Penn-Reading Industrial Division. My friend Darius passed away, and his family entrusted me with his collection. And I wanted a layout to showcase his collection. He was a big fan of the Pennsylvania Railroad and the Reading. And so I wanted something to showcase both railroads. And so that's how the Pennsylvania Penn-Reading name came together. And eventually I moved to a bigger place where I was able to build a bigger layout. So now it's getting exciting. So this This is the original layout I had. It was the original Penn-Reading Industrial Division. Darius was a big fan of industry, and a lot of his buildings, as you see here, he built for his Allegheny Secondary, and so that's how the industrial name came was incorporated into the title of the railroad. And so here is the one town of Emma. It's a fictional town. It was an L-shaped switching layout at one time. I freelanced the Pennsylvania Railroad Wilkes-Barre branch. So you went, Wilkes-Barre was, I believe, if this is going north, it was up this way. So I had cassette staging out here. I mean, guys, here's my front door from my one-bedroom apartment at the time. Okay, so see, you can do whatever you want with space. I mean, sky's the limit, right? And so going this way was down towards Sunbury, Pennsylvania. So I had opportunities to do a fictional interchange with the Reading Railroad. It was based on the Pennsylvania Railroad, and it was pretty much Penn-Reading Industrial Division was just the name of the city. I'm sorry, of the railroad, or the layout rather, not the railroad. It was actually the name of the layout. So I moved to a new place, and I had new goals in mind. I wanted to continue showcasing his collection. I wanted a place to run trains with others. In Northwest Arkansas, where I live, we started, we meaning I'm a railroader, and a lot of the guys that I work with are model railroaders as well. And so we formed the Boston Mountain Model Railroad Association, which is a new train club here. So if you guys want to join, let us know. But I wanted a place where folks can run trains. A lot of the guys don't have a layout. So I wanted them to come over and run trains. I also wanted switching operations, some kind of operation scheme. The layout is 6 feet wide and 14 feet long. I used all three, code 100, 83, and 70 track that was available to me from Darius's collection. So the main lines had code 100, 83 for the industrial yard lead, and then code 70 for most of the industries and the yard. Okay. And I wanted a double main line so we can just run trains and have a good time. That was it. I didn't care about a real operating scheme. I didn't care about making a fictional railroad. And so this is the original design. So I had four towns on a 6 foot by 14 foot layout, right? You had each town was separated by a scenic divider. So up here was Durban Grove. Down here was Valley, where Vine Street Rail Yard is. Down here was the town of Hummel, and then Emma was one section by itself. Now I had one space for cassette staging, was right down here to the bottom right of the diagram, right? That was my thing, and so it was very unrealistic for an op session. I mean, trains just go in circles, woo, like this. That's all it did. I mean, what was I going to do? There's no place for the trains to escape. I had to back up the train to staging. That's ridiculous. Come on, we got to do better than that, right, Joey? We did. So the new current design was the one town approach. I'm sitting in the cab of my locomotive, and I go, ha ha. My engineer looked at me and goes, "What?" I said, "I thought of an awesome idea." And he's not a model railroader, so he had no clue. So I had to keep the excitement to myself. And so here I go designing something, and I decided on this one town approach where Emma, the fictional town of Emma, was the big town on the one layout, right? And I created cassettes on both sides, so now trains can enter and exit on and off the layout. So here, down here was westbound to Reading. This is a cassette staging here, and trains will go this way eastbound around the layout and back out onto off the layout onto staging. So now I have my through trains. I got my rail fanning. And by golly, I got my industry so I can switch, so I can do operations, so I can do both. And this is only, guys, a 6 foot wide by 14 foot big layout. That's it. It's a small layout. It's not a massive layout. Okay. So this is may get a little confusing, but I really had to think about, okay, how would the Penn-Reading Industrial Division run on a real main line going from west down east, from West Reading down to, I'm sorry, from Reading east to Philadelphia? So if you unfold the layout, okay, you take the right side of the layout and you place it you cut it in half, and you take that right side and you smack it right on top of the left side of the layout. So you got trains going west to Reading, and then you have the Emma Industrial District, which we'll see. I'll show you, and then the scenic divider, the negative sort of space that relaxes the eye, is Durban Grove. Um, our friend David Durbin, he passed away a couple of years ago with cancer, and he was a phenomenal model railroader. And this is technically my outskirts of Emma, but also part of Emma in a way. And so I wanted to keep the name Durban Grove, and we'll show you a little tour of the layout here in a bit to see what that looks like. And then after Durban Grove, you have Emma, the actual city, the yard and terminal, and you have a fictional Emma branch line that had a coal trestle and an elevator section behind the layout. I kind of got the idea from Vic Smith, inspired by. It's awesome. And you go into Philadelphia back into staging. Okay, just give me a second here. I've been fighting with allergies the whole week, and this is probably the first time I'm able to breathe, but I needed a drink. Whew, okay, so going down the fictional railroad rabbit hole. So with all of this going on, just because I decided to do in one town, I wanted to create an obsession and include both railroads. So I used the Pennsylvania Reading seashore lines for inspiration, and I also used the Reading Railroad's main line from Reading, well, technically Pottsville, to Reading to Philadelphia, that main line, as a model for the Penn-Reading Industrial Division. So I put that the Penn-Reading seashore lines decided to make a subsidy railroad that's called the Penn-Reading Industrial Division, primarily all freight traffic, and it expands its operations from Philadelphia all the way to Reading. Okay, the Pennsylvania Reading seashore lines ran from from Atlantic City west to Camden, New Jersey, into Philadelphia, and so I wanted to continue as if the Penn-Reading seashore lines had another expansion, which is called the Pennsylvania Reading Industrial Division. Okay, so here's the logos. My girlfriend Amy did a phenomenal work on these logos, and I can't wait to start making decals because that's the next step. Okay, so we have the name and the backstory. So combined railroads of the Pennsylvania Railroad and the Reading expands operations from Philadelphia to Reading, Pennsylvania. Okay, primarily freight, yada yada. I said all this earlier, right? So it connects to the Pennsylvania Railroad in Harrisburg and Philadelphia, and the Reading Railroad in Reading, Pennsylvania, and Allentown. So I wanted a expansion to Allentown because you have Bethlehem Steel on the outskirts of that and all that, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of interchanging. So maybe there's a future layout that may have Allentown and Bethlehem. So it won't be one town approach anymore, but maybe kind of sort of. Okay, so here's a Penn-Reading Industrial Division Railroad map. There's a beautiful work of art that I did here with my paint app. You can see here using the Reading main line, right? From Reading down here is Philadelphia. You have the little town of Emma. This fictional town is right here, okay? It's in the middle of the route, and it's neighbors with Valley Forge. And again, a recent expansion to Allentown and Bethlehem. Now, the reason why for the Reading main line is because Birdsboro has a lot of industry, Pottstown has a lot of industry, and so I could bring cars in and out from those towns out of staging into the town of Emma. Or you can take stuff to Allentown, right? So, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with a fictional railroad, or even in one town. So we're going to take a little tour. The layout is still currently being worked on. I mean, not saying a layout's never finished, obviously, but I would say this, that, there's a lot more that has to be done. So we're going to take a tour from west to east, from Reading to Philadelphia. So we're heading east. We're looking west. Okay. This is a stub end that goes to Reading, Pennsylvania, and that will be a cassette on staging. I have 2 tracks. Originally, it was going to be part of the west side of Pennsylvania, and it was going to connect with Darius's original Pennsylvania Railroad Allegheny Secondary, but then I opted for the east side. So that's how the division name came. That the Penn-Reading Seashore Lines expanded their operations, and also I contributed both of the Rice's and my collections together. So you have pretty much where we modeled the west and the east side of Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania. So that's how the division name came about. So here is the industrial district. Again, if you cut this in half, you take this whole section and you put it on top of the left side of the layout. That's how that diagram goes. So we are going eastbound. Okay. I condensed Darius's buildings. He did some phenomenal work, and I wanted to include his buildings on the layout to showcase them and also use them for operations. So there's a junction to cross main lines, which is right here. It's called Emma Junction, and you have some lot of switching opportunities. Again, one town. I'm not modeling 50 towns along a main line or condensing. This is it. Okay. So you have Emma Cement and Boyer Oil Company, the two industries here. So you can spot 4 cars, it holds 8 cars at Emma Cement. Boyer Oil spots 6 cars, holds 10 cars. So there's a lot of opportunity on switching right here as well. And then Hummel and Sons Furniture. So I took the town of Hummel and I transformed and added Hummel to this industry. So my friend Michelle passed away a few years ago from cancer. On her bucket list was to visit all of the different railroad places in Pennsylvania. I was a touring drummer out of Nashville, and when I used to go visit, we will go and travel all over Pennsylvania from Strasburg to Scranton to Altoona to Harrisburg, Marysville, Hershey. So we went just about everywhere you could think of, except for Pittsburgh. But so I wanted to incorporate a industry and have a memorial for Michelle on this industry here. And the furniture, she collected old furniture, and I believe she has 2 sons. So Hummel and Sons Furniture Company, here it is. You have materials and finished goods shipped by rail. Okay, so again, this is the industrial side of the one town. Emma Freight House. You have 3 customers. You have Frank's Farm Co-op, Sajecki Wine and Spirits, Terry's Produce. So you have options to do a what do you call it? A lot of refrigerated rolling stock. And I forgot to say this: I do model the 40s and the 50s, so you were able to use cars from the 30s here, and you can hold about 6 cars on spot at this industry. And then to the right is a storage track that holds 10 cars. Again, guys, this is only like 10 feet long. You can't. I can't include the curves. Okay, this is 10 feet of space, and this is how much I was able to fit into this section of the layout. Valley Automotive Works, which is beautiful big building on the back end. This was part of a complex that Darius built on his Allegheny Secondary, and I'm using it as an offsite industry. So I love the automotive industry, and I wanted to incorporate that onto the layout. And so this big, massive building is part of an offsite industry somewhere. So all you do is it holds about 4 cars. And so you just take the cars in and take the cars out. I mean, that's all it is. You can't do much switching behind that building, that freight house. So you can see here, again, and there's a lot going on in this small space. But again, we're not modeling a different town. We're modeling just one town still. So here's Durban Grove, which is still in the progress of being completed. There's going to be a waterfall there, and I wanted something peaceful, like a memorial, something that you see in the memorial. So here's Durban Grove. Okay, it goes into a tunnel. This is your scenic divider, and it goes out to a tunnel with a beautiful arch bridge, which is very standard to the Reading and the Pennsylvania Railroad architecture, right? They had a lot of stone arch bridges, so a little bit of that research came into play. And then you have the Emma branch, which is above on the right tunnel. And these are tunnels that I built off the layout and placed on the board, okay? Now we're looking on the other side. We're continuing eastbound to Philadelphia. And here's Emma, the town, which is still being completed, in the process of being completed, okay? You have a lot going on here, okay? So back here, The trains come out of Durban Grove, and you have Vine Street Station. You have the city scene here. You have the make believe Emma branch line. I just wanted something there. I think it'll look pretty cool once they have some buildings and stuff back there. You do have the D. Chagnon locomotive facility in memory of Darius. Okay, and then right here is your staging or your lead to the cassette staging towards Philadelphia. So you come on the other side of the layout, you go east this way, and you come around this way here, and the trains go east to Philadelphia. So if I want through trains, I can, right? So we have Vine Street Yard, whole 3 tracks. Also has a caboose track, maintenance of way track. You have a yard office, which is also Railway Express Agency pickup and set out. You have the D. Chagnon locomotive facility and Vine Street Station. Now you have here's the Vine Street Yard office, this becomes more of a team track industry. You have the REA, the Railway Express Agency pickup and drop off. There's a crew lounge in there somewhere, and then you have the office personnel also works in there. Okay, so they work, and they do all of the paperwork for the industries of Emma. And there's a little road switcher sitting there waiting for a crew. So we have this is supposed to be Vine Street Station here. Okay, we have 3 tracks here. You have baggage, mail, car storage. There's a future station fascia that's going to be up against the fascia here to the bottom here. Okay, and the goal is to look through that fascia as if you're inside the station, looking outside. So that's what that's going to be there. So I have my opportunities for you have a station. You again just everything railroad based on a railroad town. I pretty much have it. Okay, now here's the D. Chagnon locomotive facility. You have the 3-stall roundhouse. There will be a future coal tipple, steam and diesel servicing, and you have spots for water and sand cars. Okay, so there's more operations right there. You have to set out to pick up loaded or empty sand cars, or maybe a coal car, or maybe a car filled with water or oil for the facility. So I decided to name this Hummel's Cut about a week ago. And so here we have the coal trestle, which is off-site industry on the Emma branch line, fake industry. But I've always wanted to showcase operations back in the 40s and 50s. You had these beautiful coal trestles, which dumped coal into the steam locomotives on the main line. And so I wanted something here. And my buddy Johnny, actually, he's a great scratch builder. He scratch built this, actually kit bashed this, and scratch build the bins. So it's almost done. It's getting there. It's looking really, really nice. And then we're going to have a future trestle over the main line. So here's another portion of Hummel's Cut. These are part of my diorama series on my YouTube channel. And these were built off the layout and placed on the layout later on when they were pretty much completed. And here you see this is going to be a trestle going across here off the Emma branch line. So this is inspired by Pittsburgh, where you have the Union Railroad crossing over at the time Conrail. And so you had these beautiful sweeping curve going underneath the Union Railroad trestle, which looked really, really dynamite. And I really wanted to replicate something like that on this layout. So here's Hummel's Cut. Okay, so now going through the rabbit hole with the one town, I'm like, well, I got one town. I got to have trains going in and out of the town, right? So here we got Emma freights, EM1, EM2, which depart and terminate Emma to and from Philadelphia. Then we have EM3 and 4, which depart, terminate Emma to and from Reading, right? And then you have his EM1 to Reading. This is going to Reading. As you can see here, it's going to be dropping off cars and then going back. So there you go. There's a little bit of operation. So now I have trains, which you can do on your own town, where you have trains terminating and departing your town, right? So here we have some named freights. You have PR2, Penn-Reading -2, the Spoilers, the produce train to Philadelphia, PR3, the Junker, a scrap train to Reading via Allentown and Bethlehem. So, do a little bit of research where you wanted to place your town on a proto freelance, or a based on a prototype area, you can do all of this stuff here. It makes it believable. So you have the PR4, the Steeler, load of steel train to Philadelphia, and you have PR5 and 6, the Duster, coal to and from Philadelphia via the Baltimore and Ohio Abrams Yard. So you have right here, you have the Duster, meaning PR1. So you have stuff on your waybills where you have stuff to the Lehigh Valley, to the B&O, to the Central New Jersey, to the Reading Railroad, to the Pennsylvania Railroad, and if you want to go crazy like I am, I got cars to the Virginia and Ohio, and to the and I'm trying to think of the one of the other fictional railroads. It's based on model railroaders, um, and Milwaukee, Racine, and Troy. So there's another one. So sky's the limit, right? So here's some local and yard jobs. So we have Emma Local EM1, EM2 works Emma, and you have Vine Street yard job Y-1 and Y-2. You blocks cars, moves power at the locomotive facility. And you see here's a Milwaukee, Racine, and Troy car being pulled out of the Emma Freight House by the Emma Local number EM1. So, and so the beauty of this is just like the Pennsylvania Reading Seashore lines, the 40s and 50s, they leased a lot of the Pennsylvania and Reading Railroad motive power. Okay. And eventually I will be doing, I will have some passenger trains and some rolling stock um, that will have the name of the railroad and maybe the logo and stuff like that. So I already have some designs ready to go. So I'm excited for that as well. So other services. So now going along here, we have the passenger service. So we have local train from Reading to Philadelphia. Okay, and that's called the industrial. And it's called the industrial because it's serving and dropping and picking up passengers and workers from Philadelphia to Reading along these big industrial towns along the main line. So here's the industrial from Reading to Philadelphia. I, and then you have the express trains that took the Norristown branch based on the model of the Reading Railroad. So you have the old express trains will come off Norristown on the Norristown branch out of Reading or Birdsboro, I believe, and all those express trains will take the branch line that will go around all the slow freight trains and head to Philadelphia. Okay, and so I want to still incorporate a express train that would run on the Penn-Reading Industrial Division, and so eventually I may have a expanded Penn-Reading Seashore Lines train that will expand and run from Philadelphia to Reading, or I may think of something fictional again and have something that runs on the layout. Okay, so future plans. So we're getting ready for operations. I am installing frog juicers, installing switch machines currently, still organizing the waybills, and finishing the ballasting and a lot of the scenery work. This actually, excuse me. After this presentation, tomorrow. I'm gonna start doing installing frog juicers and switch machines. So that'd be fun. Okay. So here are some ideas that you can do based on some real one-town approaches based on the model railroad planning, I believe 2020 and 2010, a decade apart. But yeah, so here's the Baltimore Harbor District. Look at this, guys. He has everything in the harbor, and it's a big layout. But again, it's just the one town. Okay, he has the piers. You have the major industries, and then you have, oh my gosh, look at that, Baltimore and Ohio, the Western Maryland and Joint B&O and Western Maryland, Pennsylvania Railroad staging, and the Canton Railroad. He has four things going on this one town layout. Okay, and some big scenic or big important sections of the town. Okay, it's very hard to model a whole town. We know that. I mean, there's a lot of folks that do it, and based on your scale that you model, you can, right? Or based on the money and the space and the time you have to do it, sky's the limit, right? But here he chose to do a harbor district in Baltimore, and then here, and that's Dolcos, okay? So that was That was his layout. Then you have the layout focuses on Portland, Oregon, which is, I believe it's Ian Rice. I apologize for getting the name wrong. But this is a Portland parade, and he models the city of Portland. He has his staging, he has his industries, his waterways, his in the middle he has the yard, and this is N scale. So again, a big one town and a big layout to say the least, but this is N scale too. So it doesn't matter what scale you do, right? So this is the whole overall layout, and I want to thank everybody I want to thank the NMRA for having me do this. This was a lot of fun, and it was fun doing the research on this. I also would like to thank my area of the Maple Leaf, which includes Carthage, Missouri, Northwest Arkansas, Southeast Kansas, and Northeast Oklahoma. So, guys, if you're in those areas watching this, thank you so much for all the support and help, and come join us. Become an NMRA member. We have a lot of fun, and you can come to Northwest Arkansas. You come operate my layout anytime. And by the way, if you're great at frog juicing, I could use the help. So, if there are any questions, or I could talk more, I am Italian, so I could talk even more if you want me to. But if there are any questions, feel
There
free
are
to ask.
enough questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
So you use this one town approach on your layout, right?
Yes,
So do you use a DCC system or DC? Does it
I
matter?
do. I use the NCE system, and right now it's wired, but I can do it to where it's a walk around wireless. So that is the future. So
And
yeah,
how long
NCE
is
system.
it? How long is your staging to staging run?
Oh my gosh, I would say if you start right here, the clearance point down here, I would say about 5 6 feet. So the Vine Street yard could hold about 20 cars. So I would say the length of a train is about 15 cars, and I model the 40s and 50s, unlike what you see here, with more modern. Um, the beauty of doing something small like this, or the beauty of modeling the 40s and 50s transition era, is that the rolling stock is smaller. So the layout looks a lot bigger, and you can do a lot more with smaller rolling stock. And so I try to do about 15 cars for a length. I think that's a fair amount to do switching with and to run trains through the layout.
Now, all those trains that you've listed, are you planning on running all of those in an operating session?
I would say maybe about half of them in one operating session, and then the other half at the next one. Um,
Okay.
so you can do about 4 operators on this layout. So you can have a local job, someone working a local job, someone blocking cars in the yard, and then even have someone run the passenger train and the freight trains, and yours truly will probably be the one being the superintendent where I'm placing the trains on staging, ready to
Mm.
run through the layout. So we have all different kinds of experiences on this layout. So you have folks who know how to operate. They can do the challenging switching. They can do blocking the cars, or you can have folks who are new to operating. They can
Cool.
just run trains through the layout.
Okay, so now you've answered the next two questions. How many operators can you host?
Yeah.
You said four.
Hmm.
And can you run passenger trains? And does it have a
Absolutely.
big impact on staging or not?
Oh, yeah. So the industrial, that's the fictional passenger train that stops along the way. It stops in Vine Street Station in the town of Emma. That will come off of staging onto the layout stop, and you can do some, you have the train stop at the station, and there's also opportunities for picking up and setting out baggage cars or mail cars or milk cars or whatever. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's definitely the plan. So you can do a little bit of operating just with a passenger train. And again, like I said, there's a lot you can do in a small layout like this. You don't have to have a massive layout to have fun.
Okay, and then someone asked, would it be best to use a stub end or a runaround type staging yard?
I prefer a runaround, and the only reason
Okay.
why I don't have one is because I didn't have that much room. Um, it's quite more challenging to use a stub end because you need a little more space to pull cars out and set them back into the yard. So I have a double main line, and then the inside is another loop, so I can have folks run trains. 3 people run trains, right? But also the inside loop acts as a industry lead for the Emma district side, and also acts as a yard lead on the city side of the town.
Now, did you think about where your two stagings could be uh, the same place on the backside of a 4 by 8 sheet?
Well,
So
so
when you leave to the left, you enter the staging, but you're also in the staging for coming back out of the right.
yes, that's exactly where they are. So right here you have down here you have your this is going towards Reading staging, and on the left side is going towards Philadelphia staging. So you got trains coming out here going east, and they loop around the through trains, right? And they come out here to the other side, and they go back into the other cassette, which is Philadelphia.
Well, Joey, that's the end of the questions. And before I get in a car accident here, I think I need to get us off the air in a hurry. So thank you very, very much. And everybody, please stay tuned. On the hour, we will start the next clinic. Thank
Appreciate it,
you.
guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a great time.